Okay, so let's call this meeting to order. Mr. Perrin is off island, so I've been tasked with chairing the meeting today. Prisoner Ann, Bill, Flory, and Victor, as well as our administrator and Happy Ron's our council. First on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Next is the January 17, 2013 minutes.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those are approved. Next, the administrator's report. Mr. Palacios, please.
Okay, thank you, and for Mr. Chairman and directors. The first thing that I wanted to discuss today is the agency had issued a notice of violation against Reba Recycling for accepting solid waste. Before it was authorized to do so, this was discussed in last month's meeting. Just this afternoon, the company filed an appeal. We still need to determine whether the appeal was timely filed, but it just came in this afternoon. We imposed a $57,000 fine against the company for the violations. Yesterday, I issued a rescission letter to GRP relative to its application to operate a municipal solid waste landfill facility, which I previously denied. The contents of the letter are contingent upon whether GRP decides to withdraw its appeal or proceed with the administrative appeal hearing, because that has not yet been um, made known to the agency. The matter technically remains in the adjudication process, and I can't speak too much further on that issue.
How was that decision made? Just out of curiosity, I was kind of surprised to see that in the newspaper or the email, I guess, from Tammy Joe. What went into that decision?
It was a review of the NOV itself. The reasons for the denial. Some back and forth between the review process, the review period, and actually finalizing the NOV. The accuracy of some of the information contained in the NOV.
And that was your decision?
Yes.
Have any questions about that particular issue?
Okay, thank you. The agency is following closely the federal budget situation, dealing with the whole sequestration, because it could potentially impact the agency's operations, not necessarily through the loss of funds but rather the timeliness of the allotments that we are scheduled to receive from US EPA. The admin officer has prepared two budget projections, one through the end of May, because we're scheduled to get our next allotment in April. So she's projected through the end of May and one through the end of the fiscal year. Through the end of May, the agency looks really good. We're well into the black. However, through the end of the fiscal year, if we don't get the allotment scheduled to be provided in April, it'll be extremely tight. And it's going to take creative budgeting, come May, to make sure that we remain in the black by the end of the fiscal year. I apologize that I am still reviewing the draft UST regulations. There are a couple of areas of concern that I will discuss with the hazardous waste team and with US EPA. And then at that point, once clarification is made and more information is available, we'll present it to our legal counsel for her review and comments. But otherwise, I'm like 90% complete with the review. The agency is actively preparing to host this year's PIEC conference, and now the executive committee is working with a US EPA contractor to put everything together. The team has done a tremendous job so far, and they'll soon be reaching out to board members who've expressed interest in being part of the conference in one way or another. The agency is monitoring the removal of oily waste down at the Guam shipyard. Thousands of gallons of waste oil were identified to having been stored down at the shipyard. The Coast Guard is leading the removal efforts at this point. And thousands of gallons of waste oil have already been removed, and they're being properly stored at a location off the GSY property. The agency's 2012 annual report is being finalized, and we're hoping to go live with it in the next 2 weeks. The agency also is ramping up for this year's Earth Day activities and events. The theme is For the Love of Guam. Tammy, our PIO, has been working tirelessly to get us where we are today, along with the Environmental Education Committee and other public and private citizens and partners. One issue that was brought to my attention by a member of the AIR program is a previous board, I guess, granted an amnesty period regarding the annual emissions fees for generators. And so an applicant actually came in today and tried to assert that the amnesty period still existed. So what Michelle, who works here, is doing, she's looking into whether there was a sunset provision to the amnesty period. If so, what was that? And if even further, did the agency properly notify the community that the amnesty period had ended and that we need to go back to charging the annual emissions fee? So that's something that we're looking into. I believe
This was for what?
the annual emissions fee for generators.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like apartments and condos that
Right.
have generators.
Right. Michelle remembers back in '06 that the board at that time granted an amnesty period. And so she's back with the agency now, and she was surprised to see, or to hear, at least from this one applicant, that still exists. It was the first time I heard of an amnesty period. So we're looking into it.
Have people been paying?
To my understanding, yes.
Some people have been paying and
Some?
some people have not.
Well, amnesty period only runs for a certain period of time.
Right. So I know that Michelle said she was going to try and look into, I guess, a previous board order that authorized the amnesty to see what kind of deadline was also set in place. Yeah, but it is something that we are looking into.
That's a little strange, because pursuant to that something, it was kicked back. So some years ago, and so we've never done it again. And we don't know, if there's any reporting requirements. It's not something we should make more public and some kind of a PR campaign to let people know if there's a lot of generators out there.
Yeah, this was something the board chair had brought up a couple of board meetings ago with their program manager, Pete Cruz, and they were supposed to, board secretary was supposed to be researching when the previous board chair, George Lai, had initiated the amnesty, and he was always trying to get it back on the board's agenda to suspend that amnesty and start again. And it was one of the actions that the board secretary was supposed to be researching. It was because they had to go back through the minutes to find out when the previous board chair had done that. So I think they're still researching that. And it was Pete Cruz, their program manager, who was doing that work. And as you know, the last time we talked to him, he's doing as well as can be. Yeah.
Maybe we should put that on the agenda for next hearing.
Yes,
But, yeah.
Of the amnesty issue. Okay.
The board chair, Bob Barone, I had requested that previously, so it should be in place.
Just put it on the old business from now on until we resolve it.
Okay. Okay, and with that, I'll segue over to Happy for anything that you might have to report.
Good afternoon, folks. You can see that resolution of the CIFRA, the outstanding CIFRA appeal decision is scheduled for 5 o'clock this evening. I think everybody except for the vice chair will be participating in that, as the vice chair recused himself from the underlying hearing. I would ask the vice chair to remain so that he can participate in the trash co-administrative appeal hearing at 5:15.
I'm not participating in that because I wasn't here during, and I'm not, we'll look, I'm not on the
With regard to CIFRA?
secretaries.
Okay, and will you also stay for the 5:15 trash co administrative appeal hearing? So that's the other matter that is on for this afternoon. I would note for the record that Vice Chair Brooks did recount the names of the people present, but I would specifically say that, for the record, there is a quorum of board members present at this hearing. Tomorrow, I will be going to court, Superior Court, for the agency in the Titan matter. It's scheduled for hearing on 4 motions, 2 filed by Guam EPA and 2 filed by the terminals. So we will keep you posted on the outcome of those hearings. And that's kind of it for the moment, unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Was there any questions?
Nope. We'll business is just the administrative appeals. Any other issues?
Did go to the industry, the bottom?
There's one other thing, the rule implementation, which you had discussed, which you had given a draft last time.
Yes, my thinking was I would put that over initially for 2 months because you had so much for this evening's agenda and I expected to be in trial on GRP in March. But since that appears that it will likely not be going to hearing, I would suggest putting that on the agenda for the next meeting on the draft rule for the board's business and hearing officers.
Okay, good. Anything else?
Chair Roth just did raise skipping over the new business presentation on the bottle bill implementation. I don't know if the administrator wants to go forward with that. Is that
Yes,
okay?
please.
Everything's ready.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the implementation of the Guam Beverage Container Recycling Act, also known as the bottle bill. Everybody calls it the bottle bill. Okay, so can I sit so I can just press here? So just to give you a little bit of background, this bottle bill was public law 30-221 and it was enacted in December 30th, 2010. And basically what it is it gave the Guam EPA Board of Directors the responsibility to implement the bottle bill. So through the administrator. And so the board, I think it was you guys, right? Yeah. On April 2011, gave the administrator the authorization to convene an advisory committee. And so it took some time to get a committee together, but the committee's makeup is a representative from the governor's office, two representatives actually from the legislature, and we have a representative from Senator Barnes' office here today. And then we also have a representative from the University of Guam, and from GRAD, and from the military, and then us. So we had our first meeting in September of 2011. And in that meeting, we talked about, well, a whole bunch of things, but actually how to get this project moving on. And so one of the first things that we needed to do was to start working on rules and regulations before we could move forward with anything. And of course, being that this is all new to Guam, we really just had to really start from scratch. So since then, we've done a lot of research, and I have actually had a couple of visits to some facilities and talked to some folks from Cal Recycle in California, mostly on the enforcement side. And then just recently in November, a team of us went to visit the solid waste folks in Hawaii, and that was Roland and our ASO Connie. And we also were accompanied by the director of BBMR. So we went out there for a week of meetings on every aspect of the bottle bill. We toured so many different types of facilities, reverse vending machines, and then just like the trader type, redemption centers. And we spent a lot of time, we met with the military out there, and the military just recently took over their own recycling activities from a private company. And with that, they were able to support 3 staff. So they were very happy about that. We also met with a lot of private sector people, and along with, like I said, the Department of Hawaii staff. Their program is called High Five. Yeah, so. And they shared with us all the challenges and warned us, don't do this is the way to go. And they also said there's a lot of flaws in their laws, and right now they're still trying to work on correcting some of the things. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, So we've been, like I said, we've been working on the rules and regs. I've been working with Happy. We're currently at our 4th revision. And at that point, we decided to kind of like put that on hold until we work on some of the changes on the statutes that we needed to resolve first. And so we're working very closely with Julian Uggan, who is representing Senator Tina Munoz-Barnes. So we met with her staff in December and told them that we needed to make some changes. And some of the changes are section 44103M and 44109, and basically it defines the deposit fees and the recycling fee payouts. Another one is section 44105, and then that accepts on-premise consumption of the beverages from the deposit fee. Like if you go to a bar and you buy a drink, then you don't have to pay the deposit fee. And so we're saying no, everybody has to participate.
Can I just add a little on that?
Sure.
The biggest part of the problem with that is in Hawaii, it's called the High Five program, and what it did is in the statute itself, it locked in a rate of how much they had to pay out to the customer and how much they can actually collect. So they have to pay out 5 cents, and they are only allowed to collect 1.5 cents. Well, in the beginning it was fine because the handling fees were within the range of the 1.5 cents. But as the years have gone by, gas has gone up. Fuel consumption is one part of transferring of the bottles back and forth and the recyclables. So this day now, they're paying 2 cents in Oahu for handling fees and 3 cents in the outer islands. So as the redemption rate goes up, more people are recycling because they know they're going to get money from it. The handling rate goes up, but the money that they're collecting stays the same. So what they're trying to do is amend their statute so that they can have a fluctuating rate like in California. California, every 2 years, the administrator of Cal Recycle or whatever the body is, they do a market study to determine how much the handling fees will be and how much they need to charge. And so they don't have a locked rate. When you look at the top of the can, it says Hawaii 5 cents, something, something, another place 10 cents. When you go to California, it says CACRV, cash redemption value. And that cash redemption value is every 2 years is set by the administrator of the recycling section. So they put out a press release that says for the next 2 years, this is what you will get as a redemption value for the thing. And then they go back to the marketers and distributors and tell them the handling, the redemption, the collection fee is now this much cents. So this year the price goes down, so this year they need to charge 7 cents, and then California will pay out 5 cents. It's costing them 2 cents for the handling fee. And so on Guam, we're locked into that rate too. So we collect, no matter what we collect, we must pay 80% out. So that leaves us 2 cents. Even if we charge 10 cents, we still got to pay 8 cents, and we only get 2 cents. At this point in time, we don't even know what the handling fees are. We haven't gotten that far to do the market research, to go out to the recyclers and say, number one, we're not going, in California, they offset the recycling amount that they get from the handling fee that they're paying out. In Hawaii, because of the distance, they don't bother even with the recycling part of it. They just pay the redemption value out, and the person who's collecting it makes double money because they collect from the state the money for the redemption fee, and then they sell the bottles and the cans to recyclers. So that's how they offset some of their fees. So we intend to do that too. And so, but locked into a rate, we're going to get stuck because by the time, if our handling fees are even higher than that, it's 5 cents. The program was non-sustainable. So we need to do that. Put in a rate that's floating. And the other section is the on-site consumption. Everybody knows how much beer and soda is drank in bars, restaurants, and stuff like that. And so what would happen to the program is some guy would get smart, go to a restaurant and say, let me collect all your bottles, bring them to our recycling our redemption center. We pay out the fee, but we never collected the rate. So everything has to be included. In Hawaii, they've actually paid people to come and collect that stuff. So a guy will say to him, I'll take all your bottles, I'll go through your trash, you don't even need to separate it. And some guy will come and collect it, and then they'll take it for redemption. So that's the 2 big things that need to be changed in the statute. No. Everything, everybody must pay. Any bottle, any beverage container that comes in that's 64 ounces or less in Hawaii, you must pay the fee. So, you can imagine the confusion we'd have if we're trying to determine, did this come from a bar or did this come from a retail store? So everything in Hawaii has a deposit fee.
You're rolling. that we we're working with them on is the administrator needs to have the authority to hire additional staff to run the program. And there's nothing in the statute that allows us to do that. And we have to build the program up. And then we estimate, based on Hawaii's model, that it would probably take us about 5 full-time employees to run this program. And then,
Sorry, Sabrina, if I can just expound on that a little. Currently, the team consists of Sabrina, Roland, and Connie. Connie's our ASO, and she already has a huge hat to wear. Sabrina's in the solid waste program, in addition to reviewing permits and going out to investigate solid waste complaints. She does the recycling the best that she can on the side, and Roland is the head of solid waste and currently is the acting mayor and land division administrator. It's extremely difficult. We try to do the best with what we've got. 5 is a number out there, but even 1 is better than what we have now. It's extremely difficult. There is no funding source in the bill currently that allows for the agency to staff the implementation of the policy. It is extremely tough.
okay, and well, I was going to talk about it later on, but also, as the administrator was saying, that there is no funding source. One of the things is every other state that passed a bottle bill had a funding mechanism in prior to implementation. The way our law is once we start, that's when we can start collecting. What I mean, it's like an example is Hawaii. They before their bottle bill went in effect, they collected for 2 years. The first year they collected ½ cent for every container that came in from every distributor. So they're building up, their funding. And then the second year, the year prior to them implementing, they collected 1 cent. So by the time they were ready to roll out the program, they had several $1 million. And they also were able to have the staffing there. And the staffing had gone to California 3 or 4 times just to try to learn from them so that they can roll out their program. The other thing is, like Roland was saying about the rate setting and the CRB, California CRB fees, about the 80%. Another thing that's in line with that is we're trying to eliminate the AAA process from the rate setting section, because every time you change, you have to go through a AAA process. So we're trying to see if there's a way that we can also have that eliminated. Every 2 years, we can't do it. That AAA process is a long time. So that's one of the things that we're working on with the Senator's office also. And then we have Happy that's assisting us with working on the EPA Enabling Act to include the enforcement authority for the bottle bill, because when EPA was first born, there was no such thing as a bottle bill, so there was no need to put that kind of language in. Thank you, Happy. Okay, and so our favorite subject, the funding source. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, there's no funding mechanism right now to implement the program. So the intent is to borrow the money from the recycling revolving fund, which is the $25 that you pay every year for your vehicle registration. It's called the Abandoned Vehicle Program also. And that's what we also use to help the Mayor's Council fund their recycling programs in the communities. That fund generates approximately, I would say, around 2.4 to 2.6 annually. Now and in that law, we're supposed to get 3% to hire 1 full-time employee, and that 1 full-time employee is me. But there's so many other things that we need to do. We need more staffing, so that's why we're saying we're also trying to amend that so that the administrator can hire more staff. And then once the intent is, once we get our program rolling, then we can, replace the money that we borrow from the recycling revolving fund. Okay, so now that we told you everything that we have been working on, these are the things going forward that we also need to do. it's gonna take some time to really roll out the program. One of the things, and they're in no particular order, okay, we're all working on these all simultaneously, you know. So one of the things in our statute, it says that we have to have a memorandum of agreement with the Department of Defense, okay? No other state or territory I know has that. And Hawaii said that they just said, this is our law, this is how it's gonna be. But for some reason, maybe there was just too much resistance when this thing was going on. We have to have a MOA with the military, and the program has to roll out 6 months after an MOA has been signed. So that means we can't even start collecting money until after we sign the MOA. And we can't go to DOD and say, okay, let's start an MOA now so that we can start collecting the money. Because we have 6 months. So we have to get everything in place prior to us going in there and saying, okay, this is what we have now, here's our rules and regulations. You know, Mr. Commander, whatever the title is, please go ahead and sign this. So that's one of the things that,
Can't you open communications now?
they're very, very supportive, and every commander I have going back to 2004, letters to the governor and letters to the legislature saying how much they support this. And as I said, they're part of the advisory committee. We asked for 1 representative, they gave us 3. They were really behind it. Okay, but that's still, I don't know, it's still there anyway. And then another thing is we have to go.
Can I jump in there just
Sure.
to kind of support what Sabrina was saying? Sabrina talked to me about the MOA and said, do you think it's realistic to get agreement from the military on a specific MOA before we've promulgated rules and regulations? Well, who's going to agree to something if they don't know what they're agreeing to? So I supported Sabrina's concern on that. I certainly would advise this agency not to sign an agreement to participate in something if I didn't know what that was going to entail on behalf of the agency. So I think it's good that they're working with the military and the military's appointed points of contact for this process, but I do think that the agency at least has to have a draft. It doesn't have to have promulgated rules, but at least a draft of rules and regulations to take to the military and say, this is our vision of how this program is going to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Happy. Another thing we need to do is we need to go out and identify and register all the wholesalers, distributors, retail establishments that bring in any beverages that fall under the category that we have to charge the redemption fee from. And that's going to be a big challenge in itself. One of the things that we had also learned is that the reason why I say it's challenging is because they have new products coming out in the market all the time. And sometimes the products come out in the market and then they don't have the high five label or anything like that. Which, by the way, going back, before they implemented the program, because a lot of the distributors didn't have the high five, you know, that you see on the containers, they had stickers made. So even before then, they had stickers. So the distributors, that was their responsibility to make that. Otherwise, what happened is the enforcement people from the High Five program went out and said, pull those off the shelves. Yeah, you can't sell it. So then they were forced to, okay, they have to comply. Either you comply or you can't sell your product. So what do you want to do? You would rather pay the fines because it comes right back to you. Okay, so that's one of the things we need to do. And we've been talking about how we're going to do that one. The other thing is the redemption centers. Currently, we don't have any redemption centers because there's no program in place, but we have recycling centers. And the recycling centers only pay for the aluminums. Pyramid accepts plastics, but they don't pay. But at least we divert it out of the landfill. So we need to determine how many redemption centers we need, the locations, the operation times, to make sure that they're convenient for the consumers. in Hawaii, the big thing that I think was really impressed upon me from everybody I spoke to, from the private sector, the military, and the state folks, it didn't matter what challenges they had. The bottom line was to please the consumer, because they knew that if they didn't do things to please the consumer, the whole program is going to fail. You know, like making the hours of operation convenient. So if like company A owned a redemption center and they said they were going to be in operation, let's say 9 to 6, and somebody went over there and it's 5:30 and they're not there, they would call. So then that kind of triggers them, and that might in turn cause them to lose their permit, because they have to keep their their hours. That's just one of the things. Okay, and then
Before you go on to that, and in Hawaii also, we don't have in our statute or our regulation is there's a minimum distance for each of the redemption centers, and in the law, what it states that if there is no redemption center in this area, then the largest retailer of beverages in that area must have a redemption center. So something like down south, where say there's no recycler or redemption center, the biggest store down there, kimchi store, they'd be required, and that's not in our law. We need to put that in, make it convenient for the consumer. Because if I have to drive from Maritza or Agate to Harmon to drop off my cans, I'm not going to do it. So that's part of their law, and that's something else we're going to add to our law also.
So are we working on a bill that's going to?
We're actually working with
With
the senator, Senator Barnes's legal counsel, Julian Uggan, to work on amending the statute.
So to answer your question, there already is a pre-existing statute that
Right.
we have discovered.
It was impressed upon us to
make the change now.
make the changes now. Don't roll out the program and try
Yeah.
and redo the statute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So when
just
it's out,
a nightmare.
it flows smoothly.
Excuse me, go ahead.
My apologies.
Okay, and then the next thing we have to work on is the accounting system. It's the tracking of all the monies that we collect from the distributors and retail establishments. That goes also in line with all the registering of all the companies that we have to register that are participating in this, that sell products that meet the criteria for the redemption center. And that's why we brought Connie with us, and that's why we also had the director of BBMR. We were very glad that he took a real interest in our project. And the biggest thing that I really was impressed with Hawaii is they have their team of accountants in that program. They do pay out to the redemption centers. They have a 10-day turnaround payout. And in the past, when we've had meetings on bottle bill or just recycling in general, I know that I had one recycler that came in and said that if the government is not going to pay out in a timely manner, then he doesn't want to be a redemption center. And because I think the government has a history of paying beyond 30 days. Well, after going out and studying their program, we understand why. There's millions of dollars involved that they have to front out first. So, then they would really be, supporting the government. And then, that is one of the things that we're really stressing to Connie, that she has to also work with her counterparts at DOA when we get this thing rolling. And that's why, like I said, we were very glad to have the support of the director of BBMR, so he fully understands what is really going on. Because too many times we go in there and we ask for our allotments or whatever they're called, and I don't know, it takes a while. We don't want that to happen to our program.
So can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
In the Hawaii program, there are 3 accountants dedicated just to the accounting of the bottle bill. That's it. And there's 1 billion beverage containers that go through Hawaii every year, and 7.5 cents a beverage container. It's like $7,500,000 they collect each year just on money from the bottle bill.
What's our volume? Anybody know?
We don't know that yet.
No, the number that we had heard was something that was collected as since, I think, like 2004 or something, and they just came up with the number. So they have nothing to support
What was the number,
that
80
number.
million?
80 million. Yeah, so I asked, well, what kind of document, where did you go to find out? How, I mean, you know, because I want to know. And, because I need to register these people, because I want to collect that 5 cents. And they, oh, we just figured that that's how much it is. I'm like, wow, okay. Move on to enforcement. Okay, then we have, that's another part of the program is they have people that do nothing but enforcement on just for this High Five program. And they go out every day and, well, just like regular solid waste activities, we entertain all kinds of complaints. They go out and they do inspections and they write up their NOVs and you know, work with most of them are retail establishments to come into compliance. They don't do anything but enforcement. There's another division that does permits. We're here in our program, we do everything. There's not one set individual that, okay, you're in charge of permits, you're in charge of inspections, but we do everything. And so to move this program forward, that needs to change. That's why we need to hire staff and all that. That is dedicated strictly to the program. Okay, and then we also have to train all the current and new staff that's going to be coming on board for the program. And another big component, which is towards the end, or right before we roll out, is where we come out with the public outreach. They said they went on for months and months, what do you call that, promoting the High Five program. So people were excited about it. And they made some mistakes, and some of the mistakes they made was they rolled out the program on January 1st. So they told us never, never, never roll out a program on a holiday. It was chaos. Prior to that, they stopped the recycling centers, because now they have redemption centers in line, but the recycling centers, they stopped 3 months prior to the program paying out. And people were hoarding all their cans and their bottles because at the time they were telling me that they were only paying 45 cents a pound. On Guam, we pay, I think, 80 cents a pound today. But so nobody wants to get paid 45 cents a pound when they're going to get 5 cents for every can or every container that they brought in. So they held on to for 3 months prior to that. So on January 1st. There was thousands of people lining up at every redemption center. So that was crazy already. That it was. They said the first few months was a nightmare. People were calling the media and complaining about the lines are so long. So people were unhappy. They were complaining they're out in the sun and then even though you roll out the program and you keep explaining to them prior what is allowed and what is not allowed. Some people, I guess, just want to challenge you and see what they can get up with. They said, yeah, the first few months was a nightmare. In fact, they said people quit because they were getting yelled at too much by consumers for every little thing. And then they also had a lot of the reverse vending machines. And, that was also new to Hawaii. And what they didn't understand is like they had them like mobile units, but those things are, because they're computerized, they're very sensitive. So, when you have not a very reliable power source, those things, crap out on you. So yeah, that's another thing they told it. Well, we talked to some of the recyclers and they said it's not worth it, the amount of money they pay and the maintenance that they have to pay, because the companies that they buy the reverse vending machines from insist on them purchasing a maintenance agreement before they can even buy it, and they're in Hawaii, and these technicians are in the mainland. So, like one of the largest recycler was telling us, he goes, so if my machine breaks down, I gotta fly a guy out from the mainland, so he can come over and fix my machine that's, for 5 cents. So they're really trying to eliminate that. But the one facility that they did have was a beautiful facility. It was aircon and all that, and just that while, but yeah, they're gonna eventually phase that out. Okay, so, back to that, and so, anyway, it's been about 2 years now, a little over 2 years, and that's what Guam EPA has done so far to try to get this program rolling. And because of we don't have a funding source and we just have so many challenges, we feel that the best way for us to move forward with this is to hire a contractor that has actually implemented this program to help us. And this would help eliminate us from, if we have the contractor, then we don't have to worry about bringing on staff again, because that again takes a long time to bring on staff. So kind of that's where we're at.
Wholesalers on what their responsibilities are on registration, payment, program for the RFP is because there is no authority to hire staff right now, and we're working on that. But the administrator has authority to spend money. Contractor can do first is, number one, do the market analysis of how many according to the population and distances, for them to. And what they do is they report to the state who uses the
They do another system.
It's not the same.
Yeah, they're using their own system, so that's another thing that they need to get going. Like, and then Sabrina said earlier, they have a 10-day turnaround time. From the time the redemption center comes to you and says, this is the amount of redemptions that we did, pay us, and in 10 days they get their check. And so this is the millions of dollars, so we need something, because if you go to Guam, a lot of the vendors, you go, here's to Guam, and they're like, don't even give me that, because you're not even going to pay me in 120 days. So they want to get paid within a reasonable amount of time, not to exceed 30 days. And so that's...
They've actually took the payout, normally the state would do the payout for the redemption centers, but the Hawaii, the recycling program took that from the state, and they're the ones doing the payout to the redemption centers because of the turnaround time. Because the state would not pay out in a timely manner. So they were able to take it and be the ones to do the payout to these consumers.
And so what we did is we put together a white paper, which is a little bit more comprehensive than the PowerPoint, and Sabrina will be giving that to you, and if you have any questions after reading the paper, we're available to answer any other questions.
We held it back for the end because we didn't want you to get
Sit there
ahead of
and read
us.
it.
Well, that's the,
When do you hope to actually get the program?
Well, that's the thing about it. We did the white paper. Eric wanted us to present to the board, and then our idea of we're already working. We've got the template and everything. We put together an RFP, but we just needed guidance on if that's the way we're going to go, or we're going to wait to hire staff. Because I think RFP is the fastest way to go, just to get the ball rolling, and while we're making the amendments to the statute and finalizing the regulations. But we just need guidance. Let us tell us just point, and we will go. So that's all we need to know. As soon as Eric wanted to present the white paper to you guys and then a presentation and get your opinion before he made his decision on which way, the best way we should go.
Chairman Peron asked for this presentation to the matching board.
Do you have an idea what you think is the best way to go, or that's the guidance?
This is the best way we
this
think
is
the way to go.
This is the way, yeah. Yeah, we sat down and wrote it all down, had so many powwows on it, and this is
And there's a way to go this way?
the whole key here is we need to first change all the statutes and the funding. We can't move unless we've really got the funding in place. And so we feel that also to get a contractor on board because we don't have the staffing. I mean, even if we have a contractor, I'd be working directly with the contractor, but unless there's nothing else for me to do, and I have to focus 100% of my efforts on this, and even if it's just me, I'll still need help. It's going to take more than one person to help roll it out.
Because we'll still always maintain regulatory oversight.
Yeah, and there's this really, it's just like I said, just starting from ground. But we're very excited. I've been working on this for almost 2 years, and I believe in it, and I think it's going to be a good program for Guam. And one of the reasons why we invited Senator Stafford is she's constantly pounding me every time I run into her. When are you gonna get this going? When are you gonna get this going? But anyway, thank you very much for your time and thank you, Roland
Thank you.
and Connie.
Good job, Sabrina.
Okay.
Good job, thank you.
How do you turn this off? Connie.
Is that it for the meeting? To adjourn? And go into the hearings? Oh yeah, next hearing date. Next meeting date.
Oh, shit.
March 21st.
What hearing are we talking about here?
The next meeting. March 21st, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be. Yeah, I'm just going to be getting back. March 21st or March 28th. Actually, March 28th would work better for me, but if everybody else can make it on the 21st, we still have a quorum, and we can go ahead. How would that work, those days?
I will be out the 21st, but I'll be back on the 20th.
Are you okay for the 28th?
Or no?
So let's do it on the 28th, March 28th.
So not today, huh?
Okay. Yeah, let's put this on the next agenda as well, autumn bill, whether we're going, yeah, as far as for approval, especially with respect to hiring a contractor. We don't hire.
Do you think we'll get UST? Yeah, UST by now.
It's very likely.
Okay, so let's adjourn and move into the hearings.